Most people who grow ginger get a fraction of what their soil is capable of producing. They plant a rhizome, water it through the season, dig it up in autumn, and wonder why the harvest was modest. Smaller rhizomes than expected, fewer offshoots, less of the dense aromatic root that makes homegrown ginger so superior to anything you find at a grocery store. The difference between a disappointing ginger harvest and an exceptional one almost never comes down to the variety planted or the climate it was grown in. It comes down to what happened before the rhizome went into the ground, what the soil contained when it did, and how the plant was managed through the growing season. Get those three things right, and ginger is one of the most productive and rewarding crops a home grower or small-scale market gardener can cultivate. Get them wrong, and you will repeat the same underwhelming harvest year after year without understanding why. Today, we are covering everything you need to know to grow ginger correctly, from soil preparation and rhizome selection, through planting, feeding, and companion planting, to harvest timing and post-harvest handling. And we're covering the one thing most ginger guides never mention that makes the single biggest difference in rhizome size, yield, and flavor. Welcome to Everyday Harvest. Let us get into it. What ginger actually needs. Understanding the plant before you plant it. Ginger, Zingiber officinale, is a tropical rhizomatous perennial that evolved in the warm, humid, partially shaded understory environments of South and Southeast Asia. Understanding its natural habitat is the starting point for every correct growing decision, because most of the mistakes people make when growing ginger are the result of treating it like a temperate vegetable rather than a tropical understory plant. In its natural environment, ginger grows in deep, loose, humus-rich soil with excellent drainage and consistent moisture. It has received filtered light rather than direct overhead sun for most of the day. It is never exposed to frost. The soil around its roots is consistently warm, consistently moist, and consistently rich in organic matter decomposed by a highly active tropical soil biology. Replicating those conditions, or getting as close to them as your climate allows, is the foundation of high-yield ginger growing. Every recommendation that follows traces back to this fundamental principle. The soil preparation determines your entire harvest. This is the step that most ginger guides rush past, and it is the single most important factor in rhizome size and yield. Ginger rhizomes expand laterally through the soil as they grow. They do not push through resistance, they grow into available space. Compacted, dense, or poorly structured soil physically restricts rhizome expansion regardless how well every other aspect of cultivation is managed. The rhizome cannot grow larger than the space the soil allows it to occupy. The soil preparation for ginger must achieve three things. It must create a loose, friable growing medium at least 12 inches deep, preferably 18, that offers zero physical resistance to lateral rhizome expansion. It must establish high organic matter content that retains moisture consistently without waterlogging. And it must build the nutrient base, particularly potassium and phosphorus, that supports large rhizome development through the growing season. The preparation process starts 4 to 6 weeks before planting. Dig the bed to a minimum depth of 12 inches, removing all stones, compacted clods, and debris. Work in a 4 to 6 inch layer of high-quality compost, not partially decomposed material, but finished, dark, earthy compost that is fully broken down. Add a generous application of aged manure, chicken, rabbit, or cow, at a rate of approximately 1 bucket per square meter. This combination establishes both the physical structure and the nutrient foundation the crop requires. The addition that most growers miss, the thing the title references, is wood ash. A generous application of wood ash worked into the top 6 inches of the prepared bed immediately before planting provides two things that ginger's rhizome development specifically requires. First, potassium, the mineral most directly responsible for rhizome size, density, and flavor intensity in ginger.
Potassium translocates sugars and nutrients into storage organs, which is exactly what a ginger rhizome is. A potassium-deficient ginger plant produces thin, fibrous, weakly flavored rhizomes, regardless of every other input. Second, wood ash raises soil pH slightly, moving acidic soil toward the slightly acidic to neutral range of pH 6 to 7 that ginger performs best in, while simultaneously adding calcium that supports cell wall development throughout the plant. Apply wood ash at a rate of approximately 2 to 3 cups per square meter, worked evenly into the top 6 inches of the prepared bed. Do not over-apply. Excess wood ash raises pH beyond the optimal range and can lock out micronutrients. Used at the right rate, it is one of the most cost-effective soil amendments available for ginger production, particularly for growers who have a wood-burning stove or fire pit generating free ash through winter.
Rhizome selection and pre-sprouting. The quality of the planting rhizome determines the ceiling of your harvest. Grocery store ginger, which most beginner guides recommend as a starting point, is frequently treated with a growth inhibitor that prevents sprouting in storage, may have been irradiated, and is typically not grown for optimal eating or growing quality. If grocery store ginger is your only option, choose the freshest, most plump pieces, least shriveled available, and soak them in water overnight before planting to help break any residual growth inhibition. The better option is seed ginger from a reputable supplier, certified organic ginger rhizomes specifically selected for planting, with strong, healthy buds and firm, dense flesh. Look for rhizomes with clearly visible growth buds, the slightly rounded, lighter-colored nodes from which new shoots emerge. Each bud will produce a new shoot and ultimately a new rhizome cluster. A planting piece with 3 to 5 viable buds will produce significantly more than a single bud piece of the same weight. Pre-sprouting, also called chitting, is the technique that shortens the time between planting and visible growth by 2 to 4 weeks and dramatically improves establishment success. Place the selected rhizomes in a single layer in a warm, humid location out of direct sun, on top of a refrigerator, in a warm greenhouse, or in a covered tray in a warm room for 2 to 4 weeks before the planned planting date. Ideal pre-sprouting temperature is between 70 and 85 degrees Fahrenheit. Lightly mist the rhizomes every few days to maintain surface moisture without waterlogging. When the buds have developed into firm green shoots between ½ inch and 1 inch long, the rhizomes are ready to plant. Pre-sprouted rhizomes establish faster, produce more vigorous early growth, and yield more heavily than dormant rhizomes planted without pre-sprouting. Planting depth, spacing, and orientation. Plant pre-sprouted ginger rhizomes 2 to 4 inches deep, shallower in heavy soils, deeper in loose sandy soils. The rhizome should be placed horizontally with the buds facing upward. Depth matters for 2 reasons. Too shallow, and the developing rhizomes will push out of the soil surface, become exposed to light, and lose their quality. Too deep, and emergence is slow, establishment is delayed, and shallow-rooted plants in heavy soil are more vulnerable to rot in wet conditions. Spacing significantly affects yield per plant. At 12-inch spacing, plants compete for soil space, and each individual rhizome cluster develops less than it would with more room. At 18-inch spacing, individual plants produce significantly larger rhizome clusters with more lateral expansion room. For maximum yield per plant, the priority in a home garden, plant at 18 to 24-inch spacing in all directions. For maximum yield per square foot, the priority in a market garden, where space is the limiting factor, plant at 12 to 15 inches and manage fertility and irrigation intensively to compensate for the tighter spacing.
Companion planting for larger yields and pest protection. Companion planting with ginger is not cosmetic. The right companions address 3 specific productivity challenges simultaneously: nutrient competition, pest and disease pressure, and microclimate management. Turmeric is the most effective and most practical ginger companion. The 2 crops share identical growing requirements: same soil, same moisture, same temperature range, same harvest timing. and their root systems occupy slightly different depth zones in the soil profile, reducing competition for space and nutrients. Interplanted turmeric and ginger consistently outperform monocrop plantings of either in terms of combined yield per square foot, a phenomenon that reflects the complementary root architecture and the microclimate stabilization that the combined dense canopy provides. Lemongrass, planted at the perimeter of a ginger bed, serves multiple functions. Its dense, tall growth creates a windbreak that maintains the warm, humid microclimate ginger requires. Its root exudates have documented allopathic properties against several soil-borne fungal pathogens, including Fusarium and Pythium, the primary disease threats to ginger in humid conditions. And its dense surface root mat at the bed perimeter physically excludes burrowing pests from entering the bed from the edges. Lemon balm and other low-growing aromatic herbs planted between ginger rows confuse and repel aphids and other soft-bodied pest insects through volatile compound emission, while providing ground cover that retains soil moisture and suppresses weeds. The moisture retention benefit of ground cover companions in a ginger bed is particularly significant. Ginger rhizomes developing in consistently moist, cool soil surface conditions are substantially larger than those developing in soil that alternately wets and dries. Feeding through the growing season. Ginger is a heavy feeder with a long growing season, typically 8 to 10 months from planting to harvest. A single pre-plant fertilization is insufficient to support maximum rhizome development through that timeline. A structured feeding program through the growing season is the difference between average yields and exceptional ones. The feeding schedule that produces the largest rhizomes combines a nitrogen emphasis in the early and mid-growing season with a potassium emphasis from midsummer onward. Nitrogen drives the lush, vigorous above-ground canopy that powers photosynthesis and provides the energy for rhizome development. Potassium drives the translocation of that photosynthesate into the rhizome, the actual bulking phase that determines harvest size. Months 1 through 4 from planting, apply a balanced liquid fertilizer, compost tea, diluted fish emulsion, or a balanced NPK liquid every 3 to 4 weeks. This supports canopy development and establishes the photosynthetic capacity that will power the rhizome bulking phase. From month 5 onward through harvest, shift to a potassium-dominant feed, liquid seaweed extract, diluted wood ash water, or a high-potassium liquid fertilizer, applied every 2 to 3 weeks. This is the feeding phase that directly determines rhizome size. Do not skip or shorten it. The rhizomes bulk most aggressively in the final 2 to 3 months before harvest, and the potassium availability during this period has a direct and measurable impact on the final weight and density of what you dig up.
Mulching, the non-negotiable practice. Mulching ginger is not optional if maximum yields are the goal. A 4 to 6 inch layer of organic mulch, straw, wood chips, dried leaves, or grass clippings applied over the entire bed after planting and maintained through the season achieves 4 simultaneous yield-enhancing effects. It retains soil moisture, reducing irrigation frequency and eliminating the moisture stress that inhibits rhizome expansion. It insulates the soil surface, maintaining the warm root zone temperature that ginger's tropical physiology requires for active growth. It suppresses weed competition that would otherwise draw significant nutrients and moisture away from the crop. And as it decomposes through the season, it continuously adds organic matter and nutrients to the soil's surface, effectively providing a slow-release fertility supplement at no additional cost. Ginger grown under consistent, heavy mulch produces noticeably larger, more aromatic rhizomes than ginger grown in bare soil under identical fertility conditions. The mulch effect is not minor. It is one of the most impactful and least costly interventions available in ginger production. Harvest timing and technique. Ginger can be harvested at 2 distinct stages for 2 distinctly different products. Young ginger, harvested 3 to 5 months after planting, when the rhizomes are small, thin-skinned, and intensely aromatic, is a specialty product that commands premium prices at farmers markets and from chefs. It has a milder, fresher flavor than mature ginger, is eaten skin and all, and is available for only a short window each season.
At farmers markets, fresh young ginger sells for between $4 and $8 per pound, significantly more than mature ginger, and demand among food-conscious buyers is consistently higher than supply. Mature ginger, harvested 8 to 10 months after planting, when the above-ground foliage begins to yellow and die back, produces the full-sized, thick-skinned, intensely flavored rhizomes most familiar from culinary use. This is the maximum yield harvest. Allow the foliage to die back completely before digging. The plant is actively translocating nutrients from the dying foliage back into the rhizome, increasing both weight and flavor intensity up to the point of complete senescence. Harvest by loosening the soil broadly around the plant with a fork before lifting. Pulling rhizomes from undisturbed soil damages the root connections and breaks off sections that remain in the ground. Loosen the entire root zone, then lift the whole rhizome cluster intact. Brush off loose soil, cut away the dried foliage, and allow freshly harvested rhizomes to cure in a warm, well-ventilated space for a week before storage. Curing toughens the skin, reduces moisture loss, and significantly extends storage life.
The difference between a disappointing ginger harvest and one that fills a basket comes down to the preparation, the soil amendment, the feeding schedule, and the companions growing alongside it. None of it is complicated. All of it is achievable on any scale, from a single container on a balcony to a full market garden bed. Wood ash in the soil before planting, pre-sprouted rhizomes with multiple healthy buds, turmeric and lemongrass as companions, heavy mulch through the season, a potassium-dominant feed from midsummer through harvest. These are the practices that separate the growers who dig up exceptional ginger from the ones who wonder every autumn why their harvest was smaller than expected. Now I want to hear from you. Are you growing ginger this season? What variety are you planting, and what is your biggest challenge with the crop? Drop your answer in the comments. The most useful growing advice in this community comes from growers who are actually in the soil. If this breakdown gave you something practical, subscribe to Everyday Harvest. We're here every week with growing guides that go deeper than the surface on the crops that are worth growing well. Hit the notification bell so you do not miss the next episode, where we are covering the complete guide to growing turmeric for maximum yield and commercial value. Now go prepare that bed, get the wood ash in, get your rhizomes chitting. I will see you in the garden.